You, Butters, you old malefactor, Vautrin continued, his voice unrelenting, carried off the opera glass of the Princess d'Argos the evening she set down your young master at our gate. It dropped on the carriage step, Butters said, his tone defensive. You should have respectfully handed it back to her, Vautrin snapped, but the gold and the pearls appealed to your tigerish talons. Laforet, desperate to lighten the mood, interjected, Now, surely people can have a little fun? Devil take it! Did not you, Jack? What do you mean? Vautrin growled, his voice a warning. Laforet pressed on, his tone bold. Did not you, Monsieur Vautrin, require 30,000 francs that this young man might live in princely style? We succeeded in satisfying you in the fashion of foreign governments, by borrowing and getting credit. All those who come to ask for me leave some with us. And you are not satisfied. Phil de Soie chimed in, his voice plaintive. And if, when I am sent to buy provisions without a sou, I may not be allowed to bring back some cash with me, I might as well send in my resignation. Philosopher's tone was defiant. And didn't I sell our custom to 4 different coach builders, 5,000 francs each clip, and the man who got the order lost all? One evening Monsieur de Fresca starts off from home with wretched screws, and we bring him back, Laforet and I, with a span worth 10,000 francs, which have cost him only 20 glasses of brandy. No, it was Kirchenwasser, Laforet corrected. Yes, and yet you fly into a rage, Philosopher continued. How are you going to keep house now? Phil de Soie demanded. Vautrin's voice rose, his authority absolute. Do you expect to do things of this kind for long? What I have permitted in order to set up our establishment, from this day forth I forbid. You wish, I suppose, to descend from robbery to swindling. If you do not understand what I say, I will look out for better servants. And where will you find them? Butters challenged, his tone belligerent. Let him hunt for them. Laforet scoffed. Vautrin's eyes blazed, his voice a low growl. You forget, I see, that I have pledged myself to save your necks. Dear, do you think I have sifted you, like seeds in a colander, through 3 different places of residence, to let you hover round a gibbet, like flies round a candle? I wish you to know that any imprudence that brings you to such a position is, to men of my stamp, a crime. You ought to appear as supremely innocent as you, Philosopher, appeared to him who let you rip off his lace. Never forget the part you are playing. You are honest fellows, faithful domestics, and adore Raoul de Fresca's, your master. Butters's voice was sullen. Do you take this young man for a god? You have harnessed us to his car, but we know him no better than he knows us. Tell me, is he one of our kind? Philosopher asked, his tone probing. What is he going to bring us to? Phil de Soie demanded. Laforet's voice was firm, his conditions clear. We obey on condition that the society of the 10,000 be reconstituted, so that never less than 10,000 francs at a time be assigned to us. At present, we have not any funds in common. When are we all to be capitalists? Phil de Soie asked, his tone hopeful. Butters's voice was raw with frustration. If the gang knew that for the last 6 months I have been disguising myself as an old porter, without any object, I should be disgraced. If I am willing to risk my neck, it is that I may give bread to my Adele, whom you have forbidden me to see, and who for 6 months must have been as dry as a match. Laforet, his voice low, whispered to the others, she is in prison. Poor man. Let us spare his feelings. Vautrin's voice cut through their complaints, his authority unyielding. Have you finished? Come now, you have made merry here for 6 months, eaten like diplomats, drunk like Poles, and have wanted nothing. Yes, we are rusting out. Butters grumbled. Thanks to me, the police have forgotten you. Vautrin said, his voice rising. You owe your good luck to me alone. I have erased the brand from your foreheads. I am the head, whose ideas you, the arms, carry out. We are satisfied, philosopher said, his tone conciliatory. You must all obey me blindly, Vautrin demanded. Blindly, Laforet echoed. Without a murmur, Vautrin added. Without a murmur, Fildessois agreed. Or else let us break our compact, and be off with you. Vautrin said, his voice a warning. If I meet with ingratitude from you, to whom can I venture hereafter to do a service? To no one, my emperor, philosopher said, his tone fervent. I should rather say, our great teacher. Laforet added. I love you more than I love Adele, Butters declared. We worship you, Fildessois said, his voice reverent. Vautrin's tone grew stern. If necessary, I shall even have to beat you. We'll take it without a murmur, philosopher said. To spit in your face, to bowl over your lives like a row of skittles, Vautrin continued. But I bowl over with a knife, Butters warned, his tone defiant. Very well, kill me this instant, Vautrin challenged, his voice calm but menacing. Butters hesitated, his defiance faltering. It is no use being vexed with this man. Do you wish me to restore the opera glass? I intended it for Adele. The others surrounded Vautrin, their voices a chorus of loyalty. Would you abandon us, Vautrin? Laforet pleaded. Vautrin. Our friend, philosopher said. Mighty Vautrin. Fildessois exclaimed. Our old companion, deal with us as you will, Butters added. Vautrin's voice softened, but his authority remained absolute. Yes, and I can deal with you as I will. When I think what trouble you make, in your trinket stealing, I feel inclined to send you back to the place I took you from. You are either above or below the level of society, dregs or foam, but I desire to make you enter into society. People used to hoot you as you went by. I wish them to bow to you, you were once the basest of mankind, I wish you to be more than honest men. Is there such a class? Philosopher asked, his tone skeptical. There are those who are nothing at all, Butters said. There are those who decide upon the honesty of others, Vautrin said, his voice resolute. You will never be honest burgesses, you must belong either to the wretched or the rich, you must therefore master one half of the world. Take a bath of gold, and you will come forth from it virtuous. Fildessois' eyes gleamed with ambition. To think that, when I have need of nothing, I shall be a good prince. Of course, Vautrin said. And you, Laforet, you can become Count of St. Helena, and what would you like to be, Butters? I should like to be a philanthropist, Butters said, for the philanthropist always becomes a millionaire. And I, a banker, philosopher added. He wishes to be a licensed professional, Fildessois teased. Vautrin's voice grew commanding, his vision clear. Show yourselves then, according as occasion demands it, blind and clear-sighted, adroit and clumsy, stupid and clever, like all those who make their fortune. Never judge me, and try to understand my meaning. You ask who Raoul de Fresques is? I will explain to you, he will soon have an income of 1,200,000 francs. He will be a prince. And I picked him up when he was begging on the high road, ready to become a drummer boy. In his 12th year, he had neither name nor family. He came from Sardinia, where he must have got into some trouble, for he was a fugitive from justice. Butters's tone was mocking. Oh, now that we know his antecedents and his social position. Be off to your lodge. Vautrin snapped, his voice a whip. Little Ninny, daughter of Giroflee, is there, Butters began. She may let a spy pass in, Vautrin warned. She. She is a little cat to whom it is not necessary to point out the stool pigeons, Butters retorted. You may judge my power from what I am in process of doing for Raoul, Vautrin said, his voice resonant with conviction. Ought he not to be preferred before all? Raoul de Fresques is a young man who has remained pure as an angel in the midst of our mire pit. He is our conscience, moreover, he is my creation. I am at once his father, his mother, and I desire to be his guiding providence. I, who can never know happiness, still delight in making other people happy. I breathe through his lips, I live in his life, his passions are my own, and it is impossible for me to know noble and pure emotions excepting in the heart of this being unsoiled by crime. You have your fancies, here I show you mine. In exchange for the blight which society has brought upon me, I give it a man of honor, and enter upon a struggle with destiny. Do you wish to be of my party? Obey me. In life and death, the others chorused, their voices fervent. Vautrin's thoughts were triumphant, though his face remained impassive. So my savage beasts are once more brought to submission, he mused. Aloud, he issued his orders with precision. Philosopher, try to put on the air, the face, the costume of an employee of the Lost Goods Bureau, and take back to the embassy the plate borrowed by Laforet. You, Phil de Soie, must prepare a sumptuous dinner, as Monsieur de Fresques is to entertain a few friends. You will afterwards dress yourself as a respectable man and assume the air of a lawyer. You will go to number 6, Rue Oblin, ring 7 times at the 4th-story door, and ask for Père Giroflée. When they ask where you come from, you will answer from a seaport in Bohemia. They will let you in. I want certain letters and papers of the Duc de Christoval. Here are the text and patterns. I want an absolute facsimile, with the briefest possible delay. Laforet, you must go and insert a few lines in the newspapers, notifying the arrival of. He leaned close, whispering the details into Laforet's ear. This forms part of my plan. Now leave me. Well, are you satisfied? Laforet asked, his tone hopeful. Yes, Vautrin replied. You want nothing more of us? Philosopher asked. Nothing, Vautrin said. There will be no more rebellion, everyone will be good, Phil de Soie promised. Let your mind rest easy, we are going to be not only polite, but honest, Butters added. That is right, boys, Vautrin said, his voice approving. A little integrity, a great deal of address, and you will be respected. The others departed, leaving Vautrin alone in the room, his thoughts a whirlwind of ambition and reflection. In order to lead them, it is only necessary to let them think they have an honorable future, he mused. They have no future, no prospects. Sure. If generals took their soldiers seriously, not a cannon would be fired. His mind turned to Raoul, the linchpin of his grand design. In a few days, following upon years of subterranean labors, I shall have won for Raoul a commanding position. It must be made sure to him. Laforet and Philosopher would be essential in the country where he planned to establish Raoul's fabricated lineage, but love had complicated his vision. I wished to win for him a solitary glory, to see him conquering for me and under my direction, the world which I am forbidden to enter, Vautrin thought, his heart heavy with the weight of his own exclusion. Raoul was his creation, his instrument of revenge against a society that had branded him an outcast. Yet though a man can raise himself in the eyes of God, he can never do so in the eyes of the world. His thoughts darkened as he considered the Princess d'Argos, whose love for Raoul threatened his plans. It's singular how many plans a woman can upset. Laforet's urgent voice broke through his reverie. What is the matter? Cannot I be alone one moment? Did I call? Vautrin demanded, his tone sharp. We are likely to feel the claws of justice scratch our shoulders, Laforet said, his voice tense. The fact is, little Ninny has admitted a well-dressed gentleman who asks to see you. Duchesse is whistling the air. There's no place like home, so it must be a sleuth. Vautrin's eyes gleamed with calculation. Nothing of the kind. I know who it is. Tell him to wait. Everybody in arms. Vautrin must then vanish. I will be the Baron de Villaine. Speak in a German accent, fool him well, until I can play the master stroke. He exited, his movement swift and purposeful. Laforet faced St. Charles, who entered with the confident air of a man accustomed to ferreting out secrets. Laforet adopted a thick German accent, his voice deferential but guarded. Monsieur de Fresques is not at home, sir, and his steward, the Baron de Villaine, is engaged with an architect who is to build a grand house for my master. St. Charles's eyes narrowed, his tone probing. I beg your pardon, my dear sir, you said. Baron de Villaine, Laforet repeated, his accent exaggerated. Baron! St. Charles exclaimed, his skepticism clear. Yes. Yes. Laforet insisted. He is a baron. St. Charles asked, his voice laced with doubt. Baron de Villaine, Laforet said, his tone firm. You are a German, St. Charles observed. Not I. Not I. I am an Alsatian, a very different thing, Laforet retorted, his voice indignant. St. Charles's thoughts raced, his suspicion deepening. This man has certainly an accent too decidedly German to be a Parisian, he mused. Laforet, recognizing his old adversary, thought, I know this man well. Here's a go. If the Baron is busy, I will wait, St. Charles said, his tone resolute. Laforet's mind churned with strategy. Ah. Blondit, my beauty, you can disguise your face, but not your voice. If you get out of our clutches now, you will be a wonder. Aloud, he said, what shall I tell the Baron brings you here? He made as if to leave. St. Charles's hand darted forward, pressing a purse into Laforet's palm. Stay a moment, my friend, you speak German, I speak French, we may misunderstand one another. There can be no mistake with this for an interpreter. No, sir, Laforet said, his tone neutral. St. Charles's voice grew conspiratorial. That is merely on account. Laforet thought, yes, on account of my 80,000 francs. Aloud, he asked, and do you wish me to shadow my master? No, my friend, St. Charles said, his tone smooth. I merely ask for some information, which cannot compromise you. In good German, we call that spying, Laforet said, his voice pointed. But no, that is not it, it is, St. Charles faltered. To shadow him, Laforet said, his tone firm. And what shall I say to his lordship the Baron? Announced the Chevalier de St. Charles said, his voice confident. We understand each other, Laforet said, his eyes gleaming with cunning. I will induce him to see you. But do not offer money to the steward, he is more honest than the rest of us. He gave a sly wink. St. Charles's thoughts were calculating. That means he will cost more. Yes, sir, Laforet said, exiting with a flourish. Alone, St. Charles surveyed the room, his sharp eyes taking in every detail. A bad beginning. 10 louis thrown away, he thought. To shadow him indeed. It is too stupid not to have a spice of wit in it, this habit of calling things by their right name at the outset. He doubted the existence of a steward, suspecting the Baron was a fiction. This room is very fine. There is neither portrait of the king, nor emblem of royalty here. Well, it is plain they do not frame their opinions. Is the furniture suggestive of anything? No. It is too new to have been even paid for. The whistled signal from the porter lingered in his mind, a clue to the household's duplicity. But for the air which the porter whistled, doubtless a signal I should be inclined to believe in the de Fresca's people. Vautrin entered, transformed into the Baron de Vieux's chain, his maroon coat of old-fashioned cut adorned with heavy buttons, his black silk breeches and flowered waistcoat evoking a bygone era. His white wig framed a withered, dissipated face, and his voice was low and cracked, a perfect disguise. "Very good, you may go," he said to Laforet, who exited. "Now for the tug-of-war, Monsieur Blondit," Vautrin thought. Aloud, he said, "I am at your service, sir." St. Charles's thoughts were wary. A worn-out fox is still dangerous. Aloud, he said, "Excuse me, Baron, for disturbing you, while yet unknown to you." Vautrin's voice was smooth, his tone confident. "I can guess what your business is." "Indeed?" St. Charles said, his skepticism clear. "You are an architect and have a proposal to make to me," Vautrin said, "but I have already received most excellent offers." St. Charles's tone was sharp. "Excuse me, your Dutchman must have mispronounced my name. I am the Chevalier de St. Charles." Vautrin raised his spectacles, his voice warm with recognition. "Let me see, we are old acquaintances. You were at the Congress of Vienna, and then bore the name of Count of Gorkum, a fine name." St. Charles's thoughts were indignant. "Go choke yourself, old man." Aloud, he said, "So you were there also?" "I should think so," Vautrin exclaimed. "And I am glad to have come upon you again. You were a deuced clever fellow, you know. How you fooled them all." St. Charles decided to play along. "We'll stick to Vienna, then." Aloud, he said, "Ah, Baron. I recall you perfectly now, you also steered your bark pretty cleverly there." "Of course I did," Vautrin said, his voice nostalgic. "And what women we had there!" "Yes, indeed." "And have you still your fair Italian? Did you know her?" St. Charles asked, his tone cautious. "She was a woman of such tact." "My dear fellow, wasn't she, though?" Vautrin said. "She actually wanted to find out who I was." "And did she find out?" St. Charles asked, his curiosity piqued. "Well, my dear friend, I know you will be glad to hear it. She discovered nothing," Vautrin said, his tone triumphant. St. Charles pressed on, his voice sly. "Come, Baron, since we are speaking freely to each other today, I for my part must confess that you're admirable Pole." "You also had the pleasure?" Vautrin interjected, his tone amused. "On my honor, yes," St. Charles said.